Hello, I thought I would check in and tell you how I'm doing on the weight loss experiment and also talk to you a little bit about cardio. First off, so I've been doing the weight loss experiment for 6 weeks now. I'm going to go for 8 at least. And I am down 2 pounds from last week, so I'm down 22 pounds. And that's right on pace. I'm running a caloric deficit of about 1,000 calories a day, which means I'm going to lose about 2 pounds a week since each pound has about 3,500 calories in it. So that is going well. Second, I wanted to talk a little bit about cardio. Cardio it's kind of a vague term, but it generally refers to doing something long and repetitive, such as swimming, running, biking, hiking, stair stepping, aerobics, you name it. It's a low intensity, it's a long, low intensity exercise. And a lot of people advocate cardio as a way of losing weight or as part of a weight loss program. And okay, so there's a couple of problems with that. So one of them is that I talked about this in another video. The reason that you're exercising while you're trying to lose weight isn't really to burn off calories. You have to burn off one apple, to burn off 100 calories an apple. You have to run for a mile. You actually have to run longer than that because some of the calories that you burn while running that mile are calories you would have burned anyway. So running just for the sake of burning calories is just not a terribly productive idea. You're much better off not eating that apple than you are running running for a mile and burning off 100 calories, if I'm using round numbers. The other problem is that if you're doing cardio exercise, you're exercising the slow twitch muscle fibers. That in and of itself isn't bad. The problem is that you're not working out the fast twitch muscle fibers, which are bigger, bulkier, etc. And so what happens is if you're doing cardio while running a caloric deficit, the first place that your body's going to turn to make up those calories is muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is very expensive to maintain, and so it'll burn it off. A couple of years ago, I went running a lot during the summer. There's a 9-mile route by my house. I go jog 2 miles to the trailhead. Then it's 2.5 miles up. You gain 2,000 feet, see a nice waterfall, and then run back. So it's about 9.5 miles overall. I did that probably 50 or 60 times during the summer. It's Bell Canyon Trail. It's beautiful, all of that. So now at the end of that, I had lost a lot of weight, but the problem is it was all muscle mass from my upper body. I could only bench like 80 pounds, which is really pretty embarrassing, as I think I talked about that before. So doing cardio as a way of losing weight, if weight is your goal, then yeah, you're going to lose the weight. If fat is your goal, cardio is much less your friend. You're going to end up burning off muscle tissue. You have to do high intensity exercise to not lose the fast twitch muscle. Okay, so second thing, people will do cardio as a way of increasing cardiovascular health. I mean, I think that's where the name cardio came from. Now, here's the problem with that is there's not really a clearly demonstrated advantage in heart and lung health of running marathons versus taking a daily walk, as far as that goes, just as far as cardiovascular health goes. There just isn't. And one way to test this, let's say you've been training for a marathon for a long time, but haven't been swimming. Try swimming. You'll find that you are not in very good cardiovascular health. You get winded relatively quickly. And the reason for that is because the cardiovascular adaptation, or what we think of as cardiovascular adaptation, is actually muscular adaptation. So your running muscles get used to that increased endurance, that increased load, but your heart and lungs don't. At least not any more than they would with walking or doing short, high intensity training. One other thing I want to talk about. So, your slow twitch muscles are largely mitochondria. That's what gives them their dark color. Mitochondria is what you use for aerobic exercise. So when you're doing aerobics, for example, or when you're doing long distance, your mitochondria is what is working. But here's how the process happens. If we rewind the clock, a billion or so years back to first cells, primitive cells, they burnt sugar, they basically burnt glucose, and generated a small amount of ATP and created a rather large amount of waste product. And there was a parasitic organism that would eat that waste product, and it would also generate ATP. And over time, it became incorporated into the cell. That's mitochondria. Mitochondria is actually an invader, if you'd like to think of it that way. That's why your mitochondria has different DNA than you do. It's a foreign body that's in you. But anyway, what it does is when you do intense exercise and generate that byproduct waste, the mitochondria eats it and generates a lot of energy. So when you're doing endurance exercises, you're getting most of that energy from mitochondria. You're doing a small amount of actual glucose burning work with other parts of the cell, and then the mitochondria is processing all of the byproduct from that, and that's the source of your energy for your long run. That's what powers you on your long run or your endurance event. Now, if you want to force your mitochondria to adapt so that you can, do better at long runs, etc., you have to give your mitochondria more than it can handle. That's what forces an adaptation. The best way to do that is to send it more byproduct than it's able to process. In other words, go high intensity. You go high intensity, it floods it with this, with more product to process than it can handle, and it has to adapt. You have to grow more bigger mitochondria in order to adapt to the increased burden, the increased amount of substrate that it has to process. So counterintuitively, doing high intensity exercise actually helps your mitochondria better than doing exactly the same exercise for 10 or 20 or 30 miles, which is what a lot of endurance exercise is. Now, if you love running, run. Life's short. I love trail running. I like hiking. I do those things, but I'm not kidding myself into thinking that I'm doing that's going to have more benefit for my heart than going for a walk for 2 or 3 miles. The science just doesn't back that up. I do it because I love doing it. Also, I contacted Doug McGuff. He's one of the I contacted him through his website and asked and told him that there's an 11,000 foot tall mountain by my house. I live at about 5,000 feet, so it's about a 6,000 foot vertical climb. It's 11 miles round trip. You gain 6,000 feet, and that's my favorite hike. Sometime this summer I'll have to take a video and post it, but it's amazing. And I asked him, if I only do high intensity training and don't do cardio, don't do all my running that I usually do, am I going to be a disadvantage climbing the mountain? And he said, no, you shouldn't be at any disadvantage, which was totally counterintuitive, but I tried it. That was my experiment last summer. I didn't do any cardio, jogging, etc. I just climbed the mountain 2 or 3 times. And I didn't find myself at any disadvantage. I wasn't any more tired than usual or anything like that. I had a much easier time breathing, but that's due to experiments that I've done with CO2 that I've posted elsewhere. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Thanks for bearing with me. Click like, subscribe, recommend it to a friend, leave comments, etc. And we'll see you next week.